Hey, it's Mike from Grab a Stack of Rock, and Harrison and I decided to take this week of 50 Years of Iron Maiden off so we could just have a little break. Instead, I'm presenting an old episode of the LeBrain Train, episode 31, October 2020. So, right in the early days of the pandemic, and we were having a rough week that week with Jen's health, so I decided to do an educational episode called Adventures in Epilepsy. If you want to watch this episode, I'd really appreciate it. It's kind of an educational one. Enjoy.
Friday night, we're off to the races. Come and see familiar faces. Uncle Meat, Rob Daniels, Jon Snow. Gibby's here, it's the place to go. Grab a star of rock with Mike and the Metal Man. Grab a star of rock and hold on tight as hard as you can. T-Bone's here, it's time for a party. Come and see, got the comment started. Grab a star of rock with Mike and the Metal Man. Grab a star of rock and hold on tight as hard as you can. Grab a star of rock with Mike and the Metal Man. Grab a star of rock and hold on tight as hard as you can. Grab a star of rock. Grab a star of rock.
Two pages worth of notes. Adventures in Epilepsy. And the reason we're doing this is that this girl right here, she's had a pretty rough week. And she just keeps on going. Keeps on picking it up and getting up the next day and giving her, you know. And the amount of stuff that she's had to deal with is redonkulous. And to have epilepsy poured on top of that, it's just cruel. And it's really kind of defined our lives. We are so used to it now that we don't really think too much about what our lives were like before it. And there was a before. It's hard to remember the before times. It sounds like I'm in an apocalyptic fiction. The before four times. Anyway, according to my notes, the story begins on September 18th, 2005. Yeah, got that right. Good. That's when we met, and didn't take long to kind of fall for each other. And back in those days, Jen's health was A+, really. I'd never seen a seizure. And we don't really know when they began. They've certainly gotten worse over the years, but they might have begun before I even met Jen. They might have just been things that people overlooked. They might have thought she was sleeping. They might have thought she was something else. But I first noticed, the first seizure that I noticed was we were playing Nintendo Wii. And I could probably tell you exactly when I got the Nintendo Wii, but I'm thinking it was early 2008. It was the year we got married. And we were playing, if you know your Nintendo Wii, you know a game called Find Me. And it's a really fun game. It's kind of like a Where's Waldo kind of game where there's all kinds of similar but different characters on the screen simultaneously, and they're all moving in different patterns. And you have to make matches, and you have to locate specific ones, things like that. And she was really good at it. She might be the only person I've ever seen beat the game, and I've seen her beat it more than once. And when I knew there was a problem, because she was playing the game, and there's a certain strategy we both used when we would play the game. There's a level in the game where you have to pick a character that you like, and they don't tell you why you're picking this character you like, but through experience and playing the game more than once, we know exactly what the hell, man. You're interrupting my find me game. Our strategy is, instead of picking just a random character that you like, pick one that really stands out. Those are usually ones wearing colored hats. They're easier to spot in a later level where you have to find the character that you picked. And it's all based on time, so you got to be fast. And she picked we were playing the game, and she picked a very bland character. Like the last character that I would have picked to spot in a later level, she picked it. And I turned to her and I said, "Why did you pick that character?" And she didn't say anything. She just stared straight at the screen. And she came to about 30 seconds, a minute later. And she got to the level where you have to locate the character that you just picked. And she said, "I didn't pick a character." I said, "Yes, you did. You picked the last character that I would have thought you would have picked." She goes, "No, I didn't." I said, "Yes, you did." So I knew there was a problem. And I suspected epilepsy right from the beginning, just from what little I knew about it. My friend Aaron, who I'd known prior to this, also suffered from epilepsy as a youngster. And he described it to me as just kind of like zoning out and not really being aware of what's going on. And that's exactly what I saw Jen that day. I was really worried. When am I not? But life went on. We were getting married. We were making progress on all of the preparations and all that good stuff. And then I saw a second type of seizure that I'd never seen before, and it was very strange. Her dad was with us, and we were at the Tim Hortons just off the 401 in Guelph. We called it the handoff point. It would be when Jen was going back home to Brampton, it would be the sort of like the midway point that I would drive Jen to meet her dad, and her dad would pick her up and bring her back home. So we'd stop there, grab a coffee, and they'd go their way and I'd go my way. And it was a routine that we enjoyed very much. And we're standing at the Tim Hortons. Jen's in line getting her coffee, and her dad and I are off to the side just chatting. And all of a sudden we heard Jen laugh, and we didn't know what was so funny. And the laugh, she kept laughing. And I said to her dad, "So I'm going to go see what's up here." And the cashier had no idea what was going on. He's just kind of like this, because his girl's just laughing, and she wasn't aware of what was going on. And I took some money out of my pocket, and I paid the guy, and I grabbed the coffee, and I kind of took Jen back to her dad, and she came to and started to become more aware, and her dad was concerned. So at that point, we finally got her to see a doctor. And she was diagnosed with epilepsy. Hey, Patrick, how are you? Patrick Gagliardi from Stormforce, ladies and gentlemen. This might not be this show tonight might not be up your alley tonight, Patrick. We're talking about epilepsy tonight, but glad to see you. You know what, Patrick? Seriously, I've been playing the album all week. All week I've been playing the album, and it's been a rough week. Like I said, we're talking about epilepsy tonight. My wife has epilepsy. It has been a rough week, and your songs, Because of You, Breathe, Age of Fear, Weight of the World. Thanks for the songs, man. Like, seriously, thanks for the songs. They've really helped me a lot this week. Hey, Aaron, how you doing? You know what? I'm glad Aaron's here. I'm hoping to have him on a little bit later when I'm done my spiel. I'm going to start now, okay? So picking up where we left off, when we first noticed Jen's, those 2 seizures, I mean, they were very troublesome. Anyway, so we started noticing all of these seizures, and we noticed that certain things can trigger them, and definitely bright flashing lights are one of the worst triggers. But even things like stress, food, and temperature can really trigger a seizure. We got married, had a great wedding, no issues with the cameras at all. Flashing, I was worried, but no issues. Moved to Kitchener, started working at Research in Motion. Remember them? BlackBerry? Yeah, sure you remember them. And her health was so good at that point that she was working day shifts. She was working overnight shifts, taking public transit in the middle of the night. No problems. Our first neurologist was a real winner named Dr. Best, and we used to call him Dr. Worst. He was so flaky. He couldn't seem focused on Jen. He was talking about this, that, and the other thing that goes on in the brain. And, I'm not going to be talking about any of that stuff tonight. I'm talking about how epilepsy has affected our lives, because I'm not a doctor. I can tell you how a seizure looks and how it affects her, but I can't tell you what's going on in the brain. So, Dr. Best would love to just go on and on and on. And we used to say that Dr. Best could be in the middle of the Vietnam War, up to his neck in bullets, and he'd go on the ground and he'd be like, oh, well, isn't that an interesting rock? I'm going to sit here and look at this rock for a while people are shooting at me. It was ridiculous. And, there's been a lot of stuff that we haven't been able to do. Over the years, as it got worse, the photosensitivity got worse. So we haven't been able to go see a movie in many, many, many years. According to my notes, the last movie that we saw together was Harold and Kumar Escape from Guantanamo Bay in 2008. It was probably the first movie we watched as a married couple. No issues at Harold and Kumar. But then when we went to see the Muppets in 2011, we didn't even get past the opening commercials. We had to leave. It was a tough moment to realize that we were probably not going to be able to go see movies again. Some of our first dates were going on movies. So that wasn't easy. The last concert we went to see, I don't know the year anymore, but I'm thinking it was around 2010, was the Trailer Park Boys. And the tickets weren't cheap. It was at the center in the square. And we had to leave partway through the show. Didn't get to finish the show. We went out into the lobby, and I asked, if after she's rested for a minute, if we could go back in. And unfortunately, once you leave the venue, you can't go back in. So we had to go home, and we missed the second half of Trailer Park Boys. And we never saw any kind of live event again, ever. She even had a seizure at my sister's CD release concert a few years ago. And I was performing live at that one. And she had to go home. And her mom took her home. That was tough. We can't go to church. She has had a seizure every single time we went to church the last, 7 or 8 times. And we could never figure it out why. I wondered if it was like the ceiling fans creating a strobing effect, but I couldn't see anything like that. So couldn't figure out why. But we haven't been able to go to church in that long. They got worse from there. Multiple events every week. One of the most difficult for me was when she was working at Research in Motion. I went to pick her up after work, and I used to meet her at this gas station across the street. She was kind of like standing dazed at the crosswalk, and I was afraid she was going to walk out into traffic, but I crossed the street and I got to her and got her in the car safely. She was a smoker back then, so she used to like to stand at that corner and have a cigarette. She couldn't smoke at the gas station, obviously. So that was scary. There was another incident where she was coming home from work, and I'll never forget, the look on her face. There was a problem. She texted me, or she called me, one of the two, that she'd had a seizure at Fairview Mall waiting for the bus. And so I met her at the bus stop there at Fairview. And I remember she was sitting on the bench with her mouth like, open like that. And she was like stone. Like you couldn't budge her. And that was another scary one. The concerts thing, it kind of came to a head when, do you remember when U2 did a promotion with BlackBerry and they had those fucking annoying TV ads that were on during every fucking hockey game? Well, Research in Motion were known for being very generous to their staff with concerts. They held a private Aerosmith concert for them. They held a private Tragically Hip concert for their employees. The U2 concert wasn't private, but they had complimentary tickets, I believe, to go see U2 at the Sky Dome. And she wanted to go so desperately to see U2. And her mom and I were adamant, you can't go. It's just, you're going to have a seizure. It's dangerous. You can't go. And that was a hard pill for her to swallow. She was going to get a pair of sunglasses and like paint them pure black so that no light could get through the sunglasses. Like she wouldn't be able to see U2, but she'd be able to hear U2. And it was, to have to tell her no was tough. But just, they're known for their light show. A seizure was going to happen. And we wouldn't have been there to help her. So we had to say no, And so the year that she was supposed to see U2, she never got to see U2. And, it was a sensitive topic. You don't want to bring up U2 when she's not able, she's grieving this loss of concerts. You don't want to start talking about U2, but there they are on TV during every single fucking hockey game. That's life, right? That's life. She was having too many seizures at work, so she was put on disability from RIM.
I had one in the bathroom.
She had one in the bathroom there. Oh, anyway, we don't need to go into all the details, but the lucky thing was that she was on disability when RIM started downsizing, and they couldn't get rid of her. So at least we were reaping the benefits. She didn't get let go from RIM until I think they let go of 5,000 employees in one day. Then the only way they could get rid of her was by closing her entire department. So that's how they did it. But she recovered from this, and she ended up getting a job at Manulife not that long later. And she loved working at Manulife. She was good at both jobs, but she loved working at Manulife too. The location was better for me to pick her up. It was closer than RIM. But same things started happening. And, we developed a system. And what we do is she text messages me every half hour when she's out and about. And this way I know that she's safe. And if I don't hear from her within half an hour, I text her, and then if she doesn't get those texts, I start going a little anxious, little haywire, a little crazy, and I start sending lots of text messages, trying to get her phone to ding, trying to get her attention, and then I start phoning. And the worst times are when I start phoning and a paramedic answers the phone. That's the worst times, and that's happened. Not often, maybe 1 out of every 8 or 9 times, 10, but it happens. At least we have this system, and it helps keep me in touch with her, and it's helpful because if she says, I'm not feeling well, then I can respond to that, and I can say, I'll be there in 10 minutes, or what?
Heading to the door.
Oh, she's going to get her Popeye's chicken. Yeah, so it helps us. If I can respond to that and go and help her, great. We also have some other procedures to help keep her safe. Walmart now, because she has so many damn seizures at the Walmart checkout, they let her check out at the customer service desk. Reason being that their main checkout is right next to their photo lab. So there's constantly this pop of light. And so she gets to check out at the service desk, and she hates it because she doesn't like being different from other people. She doesn't like being treated any different from other people. And sometimes somebody will say, why is she allowed to buy so many items at the customer service desk? And it's because she has a medical exemption. So fuck off. Hey, Candace. Yes. Thank you. Thank you so much. I was going to talk about you as well. You know, one of the other things is that she's got two great friends, Candace and Tara, and they're the only two people that live in Kitchener that I trust with my Jen. Well, that's not true. My parents too. But, you know, Candace and Tara, they're a good team. They keep an eye on her. And they've witnessed some pretty bad seizures before, too. There's one that Candace was there for at Fairview Mall where Jen didn't know where she was. She thought she was in Brampton. And Candace called me and said, you better come. She's very confused. So I came to the mall, and she was there in the food court with Candace and her mom. And Jen's like, what are you doing here? And I was like, oh, Candace called me. I'm here to see you. She's like, but how did you get here so fast from Kitchener? I said, we are in Kitchener. She's like, no, we're not. We're in Brampton. So sometimes these seizures can be very disorienting. I'll get to some of the harder stuff a bit later on. I don't want to get into it right yet. She keeps a pair of sunglasses in her purse so she can cover up immediately if there's any kind of flashing light. And you'd be surprised how often there are flashing lights. Think about every service truck you've ever seen. Think about those shoes that kids wear with the light up heels. They're terrible for seizures. She's had so many seizures. Actually, the last seizure that she had at Fairview Mall back in maybe, I think May, it might have been May, whenever the malls reopened. The last seizure she had at Fairview Mall was because some kid was hopping around on those flashy light shoes. So, you know, there's triggers everywhere. We got the sunglasses in the purse. And although it's expensive, she gets cabs and tries to get rides with other people as often as possible rather than taking public transit, because you can never control what's going on in public transit. There's been a lot of times where she's been there and some students taking pictures with a flash inside a bus, and she'll just go like that, you know, and we'll knock her right out. So I have some other notes here that sometimes you kind of have to laugh. We try to have a sense of humor about everything that happens to us. If you don't have a sense of humor about some of the stuff, then you'll go nuts. So we try to remember the funny things, because quite honestly, some of these things, they're objectively funny. I was wearing one of my favorite t-shirts. It's an Albert Einstein t-shirt. Got a great picture of Einstein on it, and the best part of the shirt is it glows in the dark. So I was obviously in the light, but Jen had a seizure, and so I took her into the bedroom and turned the lights off so her eyes wouldn't be so sensitive to all the stimulus. And as she started coming to, she looked at my chest with this glowing Albert Einstein image on my chest, and her eyes are trying to focus, and her brain is trying to remember vocabulary. Sometimes she can't really speak. She can't remember words after a seizure. So she resorts to the simplest words to describe what's going on to her. And the Einstein shirt, she said, your tummy is glass on fire. And a glow-in-the-dark Einstein with unfocused eyes in the dark? Yeah, sounds about right. That's funny. Those shoes are evil. So are lights at the mall that are blinking, and they don't change them for weeks because they still work. Yeah, I know you mean those, the fluorescent lighting. Yeah. Another good one. They're outdoors. The wind is blowing. You know how the grass moves when the wind blows? She described it as the grass is dancing. The simplicity of that. I love the beauty of that. The grass is dancing. Sometimes her focus becomes so intense that she can see things like so far away in incredible detail after a seizure. I don't know how that's even physically possible, but she can see things that I can't after a seizure. So with her hyper focus on the grass is dancing. Oh, here's one. This is a good one. Sometimes after a seizure, she kind of describes the world as looking like super three-dimensional, you know, like super three-dimensional. And I have a nose. I have a profile, as you can see. And she said to me, "Your nose is pointy and triangle-shaped." How is that not funny? Another time she described it as teardrop shaped. Teardrop shaped, she described it. What do you think? A teardrop, or is that a triangle? It is pointy. It is pointy. And of course, sometimes colors are very vivid after a seizure. And she said to me, "Your beard is white." Yeah, I know. The mind does do crazy things. So, Dr. Best, we called him Dr. Worst. He could never seem to help us. He was really a pill pusher. He would try different medications. Some had bad side effects, some had not so bad side effects. But oh, thank you. Do you want to say hello or no?
I'll say hello.
Oh, careful! She's tripping over my Amazon boxes. Hello, hang on. Yeah, I'll just move the camera. There she is. There's the most beautiful girl in the world, right
you're
there.
the nicest boy in the Bronx, sir.
In the Bronx, the nicest boy
in the bedroom. I didn't mean that gross. This is a bedroom. It's Mike's room.
She's got a little bit of stage fright, I think.
Yeah, I think so.
How's the new sandwich at Popeyes? I guess
I've never tried it.
Okay, we don't know, Chris. We don't know. So Dr. Worst, as we called him, he was really just a pill pusher. Put her on all kinds of different meds. Some had side effects. Some didn't have side
one
effects.
One of them gave me Keppra Rage, you poor unfortunate soul.
Gave you what?
Keppra Rage. Remember, I would just get nasty for no reason altogether for a little while.
I don't remember that at all. But I mean, that's not an unusual thing. He diagnosed her with having both epileptic and the bedroom comment, Jen. She was diagnosed with both epileptic and non-epileptic seizures. This is brain activity that mimics seizures. For all intents and purposes, it is a seizure. They have the exact same effect on her, but they're harder to treat. And Dr. Best gave up.
Yeah.
Gave up. We received, or her family doctor received a letter from him saying, "I cannot treat this patient. Good luck." And without a neurologist, you cannot get your medications changed. You can probably get refills because your family doctor would probably keep issuing a refill, but your family doctor cannot issue those kind of medications. Only a neurologist can. So we needed to find a new neurologist, and we needed to find a psychiatrist because these non-epileptic seizures are a whole other ball of wax. She's been through a number of psychiatrists. That's a whole other. You don't get to keep a psychiatrist. No. You get a psychiatrist for a meeting, 2 meetings, 3 meetings if you're lucky, and they push pills and they modify your prescription. They don't talk to you. It's not like what you see on The Sopranos where you're lying on a couch and they talk to you and they get deep into your problems and they do like dream therapy and all that shit. That's not what a psychiatrist does. They issue pills. That's all they do is they issue pills. But they're fucking hard to get.
A lot of people need those pills.
So here we are without a neurologist. There aren't any neurologists in KW, where we live. There are neurologists in Toronto. There are neurologists in London. So,
you're smack dab in the middle.
Smack dab in the middle we are. So what we did, by her family doctor's suggestion, because he's completely stumped. He doesn't know what to do. He doesn't know how to.
But he was also street smart.
Very street smart. So what he did was he said, this is what you do. You go to the hospital in Mississauga where they have a neurologist. You go to the emergency room. You say, this girl is having seizures. She needs to see a neurologist. And pray. So we get to the hospital in Mississauga. We're with Jen. We got her mom with us. I think that was 2014, I want to say. I'm pretty sure
sooner, but it doesn't.
Oh, she's so beautiful, says Rosanna. Isn't that nice?
Oh, thank you, Rosanna.
Anyway, it doesn't matter. Went to the hospital. Finally saw somebody. I can't remember if he was a doctor or a nurse, but he's like, what seems to be the problem? I said, well, she's been having seizures, so we're here. We need to see a neurologist. And he goes, you can only come here if it's an emergency. And I said, she had a seizure in your waiting room. I don't think that guy was too happy. I also said, we're following her doctor's instructions. He told us to come here. Her doctor. And that didn't, I said, you can call him if you want.
He was pretty high up the food chain at the Ontario Medical Association.
Yeah.
He was on the executive.
And he says, oh, we don't do that. And I'm like, whatever. Anyway, here we are. Help this girl. So she saw I can't remember everything about that day. It was a long day. She eventually saw somebody. They did some stuff with her prescriptions, and they hooked us up with a new neurologist finally. He's based out of actually both London and Mississauga, named Dr. Berkovic. I believe it's pronounced Berkovic, but it looks like it's spelled Berkovicki. Anyway, Dr. B, we call him.
He's awesome.
We like Dr. B, although he's very busy right now, and that plays into the story presently. He's a great doctor, and he actually legitimately cares. He's trying to help. But at this point, I believe we probably have a form of epilepsy that is drug resistant. And funny enough, one of the last things that we did before COVID hit was we went to, there's an epilepsy support group in KW, by the way. If you want the information, contact me and I'll get it for you. At the support group, there was a, I don't know what you'd call them. Essentially they were sales reps, but they promote a product that's an implant that goes in your neck, and it stimulates a certain nerve, and it can detect seizures about to happen. And apparently in a lot of, I can't remember all the numbers, but in a large percentage of patients, it can actually stop the seizure from happening before it happens, or at least lessen the severity of it. So this is something we were kind of interested in checking out. We were going to talk to Dr. B about, but we haven't seen Dr. B because of COVID.
Our appointment, actually, we had to cancel a couple of weeks before the COVID started, and it was rescheduled because of a massive snowstorm.
Yeah, oh man, it's been so long. It's been so long. That's how long ago it was. Massive snowstorm.
And they rescheduled it, but then that had to get
canceled.
COVID.
Anyway.
Well, I'm gonna head out.
Okay, you enjoy your chicken. Thanks for coming on, sweetie. As you can see, she's in a sling. And that is due to the fact that she had a bad fall on Sunday. And she had a seizure at Harvey's, I think she said it was. And we don't know exactly what happened. And quite frankly, it doesn't matter. But she obviously hit the ground or hit something solid and broke her arm. And there's a minor fracture, thank God. We found that out yesterday. It's just a minor fracture. But she doesn't remember anything. She remembers coming to. There were paramedics there. And normally, when a paramedic is called to the scene of a seizure, we refuse to go to the hospital. We refuse the ambulance. And the reason being is they can't do anything. Not at KW. They can't do anything. Or Grand River, I should say, Grand River Hospital. They can't do anything. They don't have a neurologist. So we waste our evening at the hospital waiting to be discharged. Sometimes I just feel like walking out, to be honest with you, but we haven't done that. We haven't just taken the things off and just walked out, but you know, what can you do? Anyway, so she normally refuses the ambulance. This time though, this was the wrong time. to refuse the ambulance. The only time that I would prefer she gets in an ambulance is when she has fallen and has physically hurt herself. Like one time I don't remember what she did to her ankle. She fucked up her ankle and she was in one of those boots. One time she hit her head and I was concerned. So anytime she has a fall where she physically hurts herself, I prefer that she goes to the hospital. But this time she didn't. She came home in a cab. Oh, thank you, Rosanna. That's so kind. She came home in a cab and she said, I'm going to go rest. And I said, good, you rest. My arm, she's like, I'm so sore. And I'm like, yeah, I think you had a fall. 2 hours later, she was in so much pain. So I asked, can you move your arm? And she couldn't move her arm. So I said, okay, we got to go to emergency right now. So I took her to emergency and I then came home because I don't believe they really want two people in emergency at the same time right now. And also, quite frankly, I don't do well in emergency in hospitals in general. I don't do well. So I wouldn't have done anybody any good. She had another seizure there, getting an x-ray. But anyway, we found out now that it is a minor fracture and it should be healed up in 6 weeks. She's only in a sling. There's no cast. Those kinds of seizures where she falls are the worst kinds of seizures. And that's why her mobility is limited today. She's had so many falls that she's had, she's injured every part of her body at least once. She's had a concussion. That one pissed me off. I believe the concussion was caused by those fucking flashing light shoes. Oh man, I remember one time she was at the hospital. She'd already had a seizure and some lady closed the door right into her as she was walking through it and fucking hit her right in the head. And Jen was furious and it triggered a seizure. And I was like, thanks a lot to the lady. Anyway, it's been tough. Her mobility is limited now because of all these seizures, all these falls, and her memory's not the greatest anymore. But we keep on keeping on. She keeps on keeping on, just like Jackie Chan. You got it, man. Jackie Chan never let it stop him. So, she keeps on keeping on. And it's incredible, really. She's been through so much and just keeps on keeping on. She gets angry and frustrated sometimes. I've seen her come out of a seizure and she's like, what's going on? And I tell her you had a seizure. And she goes, fuck. She gets really mad sometimes. Really mad. And sometimes that can bring on another seizure. But can you blame her? I mean, this has been 2008, 12 years. 12 years, and they've gotten a lot worse. And like I said, they seem to be resistant to medication. It sucks. It fucking sucks, man.
Hey, sorry, need to interrupt here. 2025 Mike interrupting here to update because this section is no longer accurate. Her seizures are a lot better in 2025 and there are new medications on the market that seem to be having a positive effect. So just to update this section, we are much more positive today.
Some of the biggest problems that we run into is just people who don't understand what a seizure is, how it affects you, what can trigger them. I remember one time I was at McDonald's maybe with her, and they had these pins on the cashiers with flashing red LEDs. And I said, can you please turn that off? She's got epilepsy. And of course she had a seizure in the McDonald's. I'm trying to hold her upright and we both hit the ground as I'm trying to keep her upright. And the cashiers, when I said flashing lights cause seizures, she says, well, I never heard of that. It's true. A lot of people never heard of that. And, I have a lot more notes here. And I'm not going to read them. Because it's all negative, and I don't want to go negative at the end of the show. Not reading those. Not reading them. Don't want to go there anymore. Don't want to go there. Instead, what I'm going to do now is I have a very, very good friend from a long time ago named Aaron Liebold, and he was watching earlier, And if he's still watching, I'd like to invite him on. There he is.
Hey, how's it going?
Hey, buddy.
Oh,
geez,
hey.
you're in the dark.
Yeah, just 1 second. There we go.
Hey, buddy. How you doing?
Good, man. How are you?
Not too bad. Not too bad. Have you been watching?
I was watching, and then I kept cutting in and out. So
Yeah. Apparently, the Facebook feed isn't working too well, so most people are watching on YouTube right now.
Oh, gotcha. Okay. I saw you posted that link, but I wasn't sure what it was. Or
That's the YouTube. Yeah. Well, it's good to see you.
yeah, you too. How you been?
Good. Well, I mean, relatively.
Yeah.
I don't know if what you caught and what you didn't catch, but the wife, she had a bad seizure and a fall this week and fractured her left arm.
Yeah, I read that.
That's why I'm doing this tonight, is because of that. I figure that sometimes the best live streams are the ones that pertain to what's going on right now. So, so that's why I asked if you could come on tonight, because you're the first guy I ever knew who suffered from seizures, even though I never witnessed one.
Oh, you might have and not even known it, because I had petit mal. It sounds like Jen has more like grand mal.
She has both.
Both, yeah.
Yeah.
So petit mal is more like you kind of just zone out and don't really know what's going on. You lose track of time pretty much.
Right.
Yeah. So I used to always just think I was daydreaming, but my teachers in school all noticed it and eventually ended up going to get tested and was positive for it. So I guess if that's the term, positive for it.
I suppose.
Diagnosed, yeah.
Diagnosis.
Yeah.
How old were you?
When I got diagnosed, I was in grade 4. Grade 6. I was at Forest Glen, so whatever that is, like 12, something like that. But I think I had it most of my life. So
I think I know you've written for me on the site before about some of this stuff, and I know you said you used to have problems. You didn't like taking your medications and whatnot.
Yeah.
When was the last time you had a seizure?
I actually when I went back to school, like to college in my late 20s, I was remembering those meds and thinking they were actually helpful. So I went back to get tested again, and they said that I didn't have it.
No kidding.
I don't know if I grew out of it, or I don't know if it was from other substances I took that changed the way that my brain interpreted because it's like they flash all these lights at you and all this stuff, and they measure how your brain responds. So I don't know. I was kind of surprised because I was kind of hoping to get those meds again because they helped me with my focus and all that stuff, right? So,
well, congratulations are in order, at least, for being, I guess, negative this time.
yeah.
So congratulations are in order for sure. Like I was saying at the very start, it was because of you that I kind of suspected Jen had epilepsy. I don't know if you saw that part of the show.
Yeah, at the very beginning. Yeah.
The Nintendo Wii.
Yeah.
And what I saw happen to her was what you described to me back, when we were friends in the mid 90s, listening to hard rock, 80s metal in the car.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, for me, it really affected my schooling a lot. Like to this day, like my math skills are embarrassing. And I think a lot of that had to do with like some of those subjects, you kind of start with the basics and then you build off of them. And I missed a lot of the basics. So trying to build on it was really difficult for me. So I think that was probably one of the biggest struggles for me that came out of it. Otherwise, I mean, I was pretty used to it. Like I just kind of thought it was part of who I was and you know what I mean, the way that I was. So
yeah,
I kind of got used to it. And I didn't really notice because you kind of zone out, right? So it's like, you kind of lose track of that time. So
yeah, a lot of the time she doesn't know that anything has happened. She'll be watching Wheel of Fortune, and then all of a sudden it's Jeopardy, and she'll be like, "What happened to Pat Sajak?"
Yeah. Yeah, I've seen some of your posts over time, and I mean, it would be a real challenge for her to live with that. I mean, like, I remember the one time, I don't remember how long ago it was, but she was in Walmart, and some kid's shoes went off with the lights in them and set her off in Walmart. Like,
happens all the time still.
Yeah. I mean, that would be a big challenge, I think. Like, in retrospect, I'm pretty lucky to have had the type of epilepsy that I had as opposed to having to deal with what she has to deal with.
Yeah. Like I was saying earlier, like, concerts are no longer part of our life. I was talking about how, remember when Research in Motion, the BlackBerry company, remember when they used to give free concerts to their staff and they had a private Aerosmith concert and they did U2 and she couldn't go. And she, you know what? If it wasn't for me and her mom, she probably would have gone. But we're like, you can't. They have an incredible light show.
Yeah.
And, you know, it was tough for her to realize that I might never see another concert, and she hasn't.
Yeah, that's got to be tough for you because music is so important to you.
Right, exactly. It's something where, you know, I really only go to concerts if I got a buddy going to the same show, and you know, I don't like going to concerts alone. It took me a while to go to movies alone.
Yeah,
but
I've only ever been to one concert. I went and saw Lou Reed by myself, and that was the only one I ever went to by myself.
Oh wow, that's pretty cool though.
Yeah, it was a good show. It was pretty cool.
Well, one other thing I want to talk about tonight is you are a published author.
I am indeed.
And you have it's not your first book.
I have one published right now, but I have another one in the works of being published. It should be out before the end of the year. And then I've got 2 more written that I'm kind of trying to find homes for right now. So,
hey, 2025 Mike interrupting here. Aaron Liebold has a lot more books now. Check him out on Amazon. Aaron Liebold.
Well, thank you.
Yeah.
All right, everybody. Check out Aaron Liebold's book, Genocide. Well, thanks for coming on, and thanks to your wife for letting us borrow you for a few minutes.
No problem. Thanks for having me. I appreciate it. It's been fun.
Take care, buddy.
All right, you too.
Bye.
Bye.
Oh, look at that. Perfect time.
I did that on purpose. But you're doing a good thing because, you know, I'm sitting here and I'm learning too, you know, like
purple.
I did that intentionally as well.
Oh. Hey,
No,
Jen, Kevin Simister's wearing purple intentionally tonight. There you go.
Yeah, when I put this on at 8 o'clock in the morning. No, that's another thing I learned. Like what purple, I had no idea that had anything to do with. And then the kids wearing the shoes, I never would have thought of that. And then, you know, the lights on the trucks and that. It's like, yeah, we really like. Do you really need those lights flashing like that on all these emergency vehicles and that? We probably don't. We've done fine without that for decades. You know.
You know what one bugged me the most was the cart control thing at Fairview Park Mall. They got a little motorized thing where they can push the carts. It's got a spinning. She had a seizure in the parking lot of the Walmart.
Yeah.
And I said to the guy, "You got to turn off your light. You got to turn off your light." And he's like, "I can't." And I said, "Well, then put your coat on it."
Yeah.
And he's like, "Huh?" And I said, "Well, if you're not going to do anything with that, help me hold her up."
Yeah. And these are unnecessary things. We don't really need that stuff. I mean, I get it. It's, you know, it helps a little bit, you know, to make you aware of things and to wake people up like, hey, there's a slow moving vehicle or something. But, you know, you can see it on the school buses and that. But why would you need it on those big trucks and that? It just seems totally unnecessary. And, you know, those things, those type of lights that they use, they switch to all that stuff because it's cheaper, right? It's cheaper than actually those old cherry dome ones with the motor in it and everything like that, you know. So, and I'm learning.
She likes to tell it that she hasn't rubbernecked an accident in years.
Oh, I never do. I hate it when other people do it, and I always I don't need to see what's going on, you know. I'm concentrating on the road, so
right. But you always catch the accident out of your corner of your eye as you're maneuvering around it.
Sure,
it's always aimed. One time we were pulled over on the way to the cottage for a ride check, which is very common on that stretch of road. Yeah. And so she's in the passenger side going like this.
Oh, jeez.
And, you know, I'm getting pulled over. There's a cop. Why is this girl? So I said, you'll have to excuse my wife. She has epilepsy and your lights might set her off. And so the cop leans his head in. He goes, "Hey, sweetie, can you show me your eyes real quick?" And I was just like,
oh, come on. Yeah.
Anyway, so she did. And she's like, ah. And he's like, okay. Anyway, it was clear that we weren't impaired, so he let us go our way. But it's like, you know, it's these things that you got to be prepared for in life. And
well, and we're all just ignorant, you know. Like I wouldn't have known any of this stuff before or even thought of it, you know, until you did this. So you're doing a good thing, man.
Well, thanks. I appreciate it.
Getting the word out there.
It helps after a shit week like the one we've had.
Yeah, it didn't sound good.
Hey, Rob.
Hey, Rob.
I heard you as I was off to feed the cat. That I had sent an invite to Rob Daniels. So, okay, as soon as I get back, I will see what I can get on. And
well, if you want to have a nap, you go right ahead. Don't let me keep you from your nap.
I'm good, actually. You know, I know you usually don't stay on for too long.
Yeah.
no, I just wanted to pop in and tell you what's on the show tonight and kind of let you and say thank you to that guy who was really excited that I was on. I'm okay.
Jane's affliction. He loves you.
And also thanks to Aaron Liebold for showing up earlier and talking about his book and talking about epilepsy. And thanks to my wife for
being her.
letting me do this.
Yeah.
Well, thanks a lot, guys. I really appreciate it. You guys have a wonderful night. I'm going to go eat some Subway and have a great show tonight, Rob.
Yeah. Thanks,
See you,
man.
Kevin.
All right. Thanks for having me on. It's good.
Bye.
Good time.